Welcome to Mindful Leadership, Transforming Lives, with your host, Singh. This is where leadership meets purpose, presence, and passion. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure world, we face a leadership crisis. Too often, teams are led by managers who lack empathy, clarity, and vision, leaving individuals uninspired, disconnected, and undervalued. But it doesn't have to be this way. Great leadership isn't born, it's built. The end game: empower your leadership, inspire the world. Every week, join me, your host Singh, as we tackle the gaps in leadership and life coaching head on, learning how mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and compassion can redefine success. This isn't just another podcast, it's a mission to fill the void left by ineffective leadership. And it's not just about leadership in business. Life coaching for leaders and new executives is at heart of this journey. Ready to rise above the noise and lead with clarity, purpose, and impact? Join a global movement dedicated to reshaping the future of leadership, one mindful moment at a time. Let's begin. Session of Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives on the Transformation Network with Dr. Pesari. The podcast where we explore leaders who don't just chase success, but to fundamentally transform the world around them. Today, I have a very, very, very special episode. And I say special, because these two remarkable women are not just guests. They are friends. They are part of our powerful That One Quantum Expansion Group family. Today, we are welcoming the Code Girls, two visionary co-founders who dare to ask a simple question that most of mainstream medicine has never even considered. What if instead of masking your symptoms, you could communicate with your own body, your own genetic blueprint, and activate your own healing? The question is now a company, Code Health. And it is transforming lives one drop at a time. Please welcome Dr. Lisa Piper, Doctor of Natural Medicine, and brilliant Wendy Cohn-Osborne. Welcome, girls. I'm so happy to have you on my show.
Thank you, Singh. The honor is ours.
Yes, thank you so much. We truly, truly are honored to be here. And we're honored to have you as our friend. More than anything, it has just been an absolute pleasure getting to know you. And we're looking forward to this conversation and many things to come.
Awesome, amazing. So I always like to begin the conversation with what I call the mirror moment. If you could describe the version of yourselves that existed before Code Health, before this whole journey, who were those women? And what was the moment that cracked you both open and said, there has to be a better way?
Well, I guess I'll start that one. My life was on a completely different trajectory. I've been a lifelong student and studied all kinds of things. And as you know, I haven't mentioned it, but I've taken a few trips to India to study at a spiritual school and study consciousness. But my journey started well before that as a teenager, asking the deeper questions about who is God? Why am I here? What is the purpose of this life? All these things. And again, studying in India, but also studying things like medical qigong, pranic healing, all kinds of things. Then parallel to that, I was a hairdresser and am a hairdresser still. So 30 years behind the chair as a stylist. I am a creative like that. That's my role in this world, is to create. And I had started working on a PhD in natural medicine because I created an energy healing modality and I wanted to research and show the efficacy of it so that as I was sharing it with other practitioners that could help their clients, I would have evidence to support what I knew that it did. So went through that whole process, wrote the dissertation, and in the middle of it, I got very sick with COVID. The pandemic happened. Now, at the time, I'll tell you briefly how I met Wendy was in my house because I have a home-based hair salon and her neighbor referred her to me. So Wendy showed up in my house and in my salon, and we instantly became friends. I'll let her tell you about her past business experience. But after I got sick with COVID, I was introduced to, well, during being sick with COVID, I was introduced to a process called resonant molecular signaling. My father was the neighbor to a brilliant biologist, immunologist, virologist who created this process. And what it does is it works with the body's innate wisdom to heal itself by signaling the cells to up or down regulate and restore balance. So in this case, the formula that was sent to me was an antiviral that was in phase 2 of their clinical studies for FDA approval. And this antiviral formula literally saved my life. Wendy also had her own experience with it because she and her husband both got sick and she took the drops. Her husband did not, just because there weren't enough to go around. And she got better very, very quickly compared to her husband. So that was one of the things that happened. But then a year later, I went up to visit my father and I asked him to bring me by Dr. McMichael's home. And I wanted him to really put a face with my name and thank him for saving my life. I had spoken to him on the phone throughout the process and sent him a card and, all this stuff. But I really wanted to know this gentleman. So we showed up at his home. And before I knew it, I was saying things like, why doesn't everybody have this? And how can I help you bring it to the world? I didn't even know how I was going to bring it to the world. So when he connected me with his business partners, I spoke to them and I found myself talking about Wendy the whole time because I knew her to be a powerhouse of a businesswoman and I knew she had something that I didn't have. So I knew that together with what I had in the energy healing space, in the consciousness space, studying health psychology and now being a PhD in natural medicine, I knew that together, if there was a hope that we could bring this to the world, then this was the person I wanted to do it with. And at the time, we didn't even know that he had over 200 patents. We thought we were just bringing an antiviral to the world. And so the healing modality that I created, which is called soul energy alignment, kind of took a back seat and life took a hard turn. And after that initial call, Wendy came in on the second conversation and I just prayed that she would see the vision and she did. And here we are 3 years later with a company, but I'll let Wendy tell you about her background and why she's such a powerhouse of a businesswoman.
Yeah, absolutely, Wendy. I would have the same question to you too. What was the mirror moment? But before I do that, hey, just to call out, I've got the code cards. If you don't have the code cards, you guys need to go back. All the details are in the episode brief. So let's go back, Wendy. What was that mirror moment to you? What was the flip side of non that geek person that Dr. Lisa? By the way, guys, these ladies are great friends to me, too personal. So I can ask them questions. Please do not ask them that questions back.
When I was sitting in Lisa's chair, just like Lisa said, I knew immediately that we were going to be friends. And what I didn't realize was that everything that Lisa was talking about was going to be the next part of my future. I was so happy living the new life that I was living. I had just recently moved to Tampa about a year prior to meeting Lisa, newly married. I had previous businesses and I thought I'm just going to ride into the sunset and I wouldn't say retire, but just not do the grind of a traditional business entrepreneurship. And when Lisa got sick with COVID and I saw how gravely ill she was, and then witnessed within one day of her taking these drops how she went from someone so ill with over 104 fever to someone that their fever dissipated. And then 2 days later, she started to get her taste and smell back. I knew that this was something. It was so far out of the realm of anything that I would have even thought of, because who even knew what something like a resonant molecular signaling was? But all we knew was that it was an all natural, non-toxic drop that had 40 years of research, and we'll get into that. Anyway, when I had my own experience taking the drops, I was absolutely not as ill as Lisa, but I knew that I did not want to get sick. And I saw what the drops did. And Lisa graciously let me take some, and there was only enough for one person. And, I do it all the time. My husband, who's a real man's man, he went, I don't need to take it. I'll be fine. And sure enough, I took the drops and he didn't. And we for sure had the same strain. And I was better so much more quickly than he was. So that was that. And a year later, when Lisa went up to talk to Dr. McMichael and, thank him, one thing led to the other. And here we are today with our line of bioenergetic therapeutics. And again, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have even known what that word is.
None
So
of us did. I didn't even know what it was. I know about energy and chakras and, traditional Chinese medicine and meridians and, all these things, but I didn't know what a bioenergetic therapeutic was. We've really learned about this. It's been a journey because we're trying to simplify something that sounds complicated. Like, I'm not a molecular biologist. All I know is the stuff worked and it was non-toxic and drug-free and it's safe for people and animals of all ages. And oh, it's backed by 40 years of research. Okay, I'll take it. Give me that stuff. And I took it and it literally saved my life. So, like, literally, I have to tell you, I'm a healthy person. I eat well. I meditate every day. I do pretty well. I like to drink some wine from time to time, but other than that, um, I do what I'm supposed to do. And I was really sick, really sick.
Sir, this is very important conversation where you just led us, right? So I'm going to just go a little deep in there.
Mhm.
Holding a PhD, a doctorate in natural medicine, certifications in quantum health coaching, if I'm not wrong, your experience in Kundalini yoga, your experience in hypnosis, conscious based medicine. I can keep going on and on and on based on the conversation we had, right?
Yeah.
Yet you chose to build a company rather than a traditional practice. What was that mindful leadership decision inside that choice? What were you really saying yes to? And what were you consciously walking away from in those moments of decisions?
You know, for me, I was looking for a career change. I wanted to scale back in the salon. And I've always known that I'm supposed to share something with the world and help people. I've always known that. I didn't know how that would present itself. And I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. I really didn't pray to get that sick to have to figure it out, but that's what happened. And honestly, I'm more of an energy healer and a spiritual teacher than I am an entrepreneur. And the everyday things, I don't think I even really fully understood what was involved when we got into this. All I knew is that I had this vision that this would be the next evolution of medicine and that I would be doing humanity an injustice if I didn't share this. That's all I knew. And thank God I have Wendy because she has the entrepreneurial background and the know-how to do the things that I'm not like I don't have a clue about. And likewise, she's not going to teach you about quantum physics and energy that's working behind the scenes. So together, it just made sense.
So, Wendy, next question I will just flip to you based on where Dr. Lisa is ending, right? Going from practicing, correct me if I'm wrong, workers' compensation and social security disability law, right?
Yes, correct.
And then to co-founding medical funding company, to
Correct.
PureMed Global, to Code Health. I mean, this is not a straight line career for anyone. I mean, I would put me in those shoes, right? So for me, it is like a calling that kept evolving, right? What was your that line, that principle that guided you every step to pivot to this career?
That is a great question. And when I look back at everything that I have accomplished, there's always a reason why we all do and experience the things that we do. And truth be told, I really always wanted to be a doctor. And there was a calling for me, not in the sense of a PhD doctor, but a traditional medical doctor, though that's what I thought I would do. And it never panned out, but I always was involved with all different things in the medical industry. And so, with workers' compensation and Social Security disability, I was representing the injured worker who was injured and helping them navigate through their injuries. And then with the medical funding company, that was actually helping the injured worker again, but also helping the medical doctors navigate through all of the red tape because they wanted to help their patients but didn't have the money to help their patients. And then I was introduced to cannabis and CBD. And with that, that was really the first indication that there are alternatives to medications. But I went in the cannabis and CBD industry with a very specific niche. It wasn't to the general public or consumer, it was going to medical providers that were in need of providing their patients with an alternative to the prescriptions that they were taking. So it it was like something was blooming, as you said, and that led me to code. And it really is quite amazing when you don't realize what your journey is, but when you finally get there and you look back on it, you can really see how the path brings you to what you are truly supposed to do. And even living on the east coast of Florida, had I not met my husband through a random, press of a button, through the computer, through online dating, I never would have gotten to Tampa and never would have met Lisa, and we wouldn't have become the Code Girls. So there really is this unseen force that pulls everyone together with whom they're supposed to be together with. And that really, in a nutshell, is life and our purpose. And together, what we've been able to do as a team far supersedes anything that each of us could have done individually.
Wow, that's so powerful. So let me get into something that is critical to our conversation right in this. So having that exposure, and I'm going to be sharing my personal experience with code and the products that you guys have, right? But what blew my mind, uh, this was the first company to take, at least in my experience, if somebody has something else, please, viewers, listeners, correct me, to take molecular formula backed by 40 years of research, digitize them into code, and program that into a selling solution. Now, skeptics are always there. There's always a sign and there's always an skeptic, right? Even mindful leadership at its core is about leading when the path is not paved, right? You're operating in a space where most people cannot see what you see. Bioenergetic medicine, quantum health, energy frequency, these are still considered alternative word, right? How do you stay grounded? How do you stay mission driven? How do you lead your company with confidence when the world around you has not fully caught up to it? So, Wendy, for you, have you ever had a moment of doubt when you were asked yourself, are you crazy to do this?
Just this morning. I think the hardest part about what we do is not bringing our products to the world. What it is more than anything is the daily ins and outs of actually running a business with the two of us running the business. And so that's why there are so many products out there and so many brilliant people out there that never make it to market or that fail. Because it really does take more than just having something that's special. And so we have two things that we need to overcome with our hurdles. We have to overcome the fact that this is something, a brand new concept, although it really isn't a brand new concept, but a brand new concept to the general public. And also the ability to maintain what it takes to run a business at the level that we need to run a business like this at. You can't be pioneers in an industry or disruptors in an industry if you don't have the wherewithal to run a proper business. And so that's when, you kind of just brush off the dust and you can have a rough moment or a rough day. Lisa, I'm sorry for this morning. I had a moment, I even really did, truth be told, because the other thing is, and it's a topic that is not really what we were going to be talking about today, but it's an important topic. And that is when you even start to outsource your help and you start hiring people to relieve you of your job that you are so, you're doing with such perfection and effort, and then you outsource it and are paying for someone else to do it. Your expectation of them doing it, especially because they're getting paid for it and because they're the ones that are supposed to be the professionals in doing it, not you, the best in doing it, and they're still not coming back or doing it the way that you even thought, with mistakes. And this brings me back to going back to the basics of business. And where we're at today, everything is going into automation, AI generated, and it's losing the touch of the pure relationship that it takes for people to really build a proper business. And that leads me to say that's why Lisa and I are so successful in what we do, because it's the two of us, it's authenticity of us, and we're able to provide that to everyone else. So it's going back to the basics of business, to go back to the basics of even medicine, to the simplest thing, and that is, I'll use Lisa's line, the body has an innate wisdom to heal itself. So we're going to take everything back to the very basics and start with a great, clean foundation, build a company, build a business, and bring this simple product, although with a very big name, to the world.
Thank you for watching Mindful Leadership Transforming Lives. With me, your host, Singh. We are honored to have you join us on this journey to explore the transformative power of mindfulness, emotional intelligence, and authentic leadership. Tune in every week on transformationtalkradio.com at noon Pacific on Tuesdays, where we will continue to explore how mindful leadership can create a ripple effect of positive changes in your life and lives of those you influence. This show is dedicated to helping you lead with purpose, presence, and passion. Whether you're navigating the complexities of business, building strong connection with your team, or striving to make a meaningful impact in the world around you. To learn more about the show, access additional resources, or dive deeper, visit singhpowerupcoach.com. Remember, leadership isn't just about what you do. It's about who you are. Let's continue to transform lives together, one mindful moment at a time. See you next week.